if you want to be a good journalist, however big your story is, you need to know your devotion and your research should be to facts and facts alone. There's nothing more beautiful than meeting somebody that you know has information. Swedish radio said India had bought howitzers and bribes had been paid into Swiss bank accounts. And it broke on a Easter thing. So I didn't know what a howitzer was. It took me some time to figure out that it was a gun. And remember, every time that you do an investigative story, it will be new. Don't become cynical and say, oh, ye kar liya, wo kar liya. Don't. That is the worst thing. Where did the money go? I think the money went to Mr. Ottavio Quattrocchi, who is a friend of Sonia Gandhi. Rajiv Gandhi is involved. Rajiv Gandhi is involved. Rajiv Gandhi is involved. Arey bhai, if Rajiv Gandhi is involved, then you figure it out. No. Krishna speaks to Dhritarashtra, talks to him about power. And he speaks to Arjuna. He gives them the same advice about power, about relationships, about knowledge, about being the king. So Dhritarashtra interprets it in one way and Arjuna in another way, opposite. So why am I saying this? I'm saying this because two people can read the same thing and unload it differently.
I'm Shivani Kawa. I'm a reporter at the News Minute. Imagine getting a tip that could shake governments. A whistleblower hands you confidential information, and it's up to you to verify it, report it accurately, and tell a story that matters. Every journalist dreams of that moment. I mean, including me. I've written it down because I'm a little bit nervous to face you guys. But how do you navigate the risks, the pressure, and the ethical minefields that come with it? Now, we are lucky to have with us someone who has lived that reality, Chitra Subramanian. She's a journalist who investigated the Bofors scandal in the 1980s. And she did it at a time before Google, WhatsApp, or even cordless phones. Verification meant long hours in libraries in Sweden and Switzerland. Messages were sent via telex machines. Every detail had to be painstakingly cross-checked. And yet, she broke a story that changed the course of Indian politics and even influenced international law. Now, fast forward to today, while the tools have changed, the fundamentals haven't. Trust, transparency, and accountability remain at the heart of every good whistleblower story. In this workshop, Chitra will take us behind the scenes, sharing how to build trust with sources, sift fact from fiction, gauge intent, and navigate the personal and legal risks involved in reporting, whether it's a global scandal like Bofors or a local breaking story. Chitra is an award-winning journalist, best-selling author, and she's also the co-founder of the News Minute. She has reported across continents, advised the World Health Organization, and continues to mentor and shape independent journalism in India. Please join me in welcoming Chitra Subramanian.
Thank you. Thank you, Shivani, for your kindness, and thank you, everyone, for coming. So, I am going to conduct a workshop in the following manner. I have taken notes as to what I would like to share, and basically how I went around doing this story. But please feel free. It's not me talking all the time, and please feel free to stop me whenever you want something to be clarified or you have a question. I would like this to be more like a newsroom where, everyone can ask, or I am like an editor who then respects your view. And then if we disagree, but we agree why we are disagreeing. It cannot be just me saying, oh, I'm right because I'm the boss. So that's the first point. Second point is, I want you to appreciate the fact that this happened in 1980. The story broke in 1986. I'm not sure many of you are born, but that time I was pregnant. I was also going to have a baby. And, when it was a Swedish radio story, and I'll come back to that. So when that story happened, I didn't know the extent or the breadth of what this was going to mean. And I'm sort of stressing on this because if you want to be a good journalist, however big your story is, you need to know that it's important not to look at it as oh, who am I going after now? Or what is the damage this is going to do? Your devotion should be to facts. However long it takes and however difficult it is, your devotion and your research should be to facts and facts alone. So what am I saying? I'm saying that a lot of investigative journalism is very boring. Boring in the sense that, not boring, the word perhaps will be painstaking. Let's say it's painstaking work. But then you never know what you're going to find. And even today I'm 67 years old. I was then 29. Even today, when I meet a source, I can tell you the magic for me remains the same, because there's nothing more beautiful than meeting somebody that you know has information. And of course, I meet like diplomats, or I meet people in a lot of, I live in a place, part of my life in Geneva, where there are arms dealers, and I can tell you, when someone is giving me information for whatever reason, it's magical to get good information. It's magical, even though there is WhatsApp and there is many modes of communication today. But when someone is giving you good information, I can tell you a good source is precious. And it's important for all of us to cultivate that honesty and that naivety. Why am I saying it's important to remain naive? Which is not saying put your hand into fire. The importance of cultivating naivety is something I learned during Bofors, because first of all, I didn't know. So what was the story? The story was the howitzer story, like it. Swedish radio said India had bought howitzers and bribes had been paid into Swiss bank accounts, and it broke on a Easter thing. So I didn't know what a howitzer was. It took me some time to figure out that it was a gun. And then my friend Kumi Kapoor, in fact, she's coming later today. She called me. Kumi has been my mentor. We met her in India today. Kumi, I've known Kumi before I was married. So she was my boss, and we've gone on to become very good friends. And from her, I have learned the importance of keeping good journalism, in focus. So from Kumi, she called me and said, hey, the story on the wires, can you figure out what it is? But that time, I didn't have any sources in Swiss banks. And remember, I used to work for India Today and the Indian Express. So I think I was a good journalist, but then how do you know? So I was cutting my teeth in international journalism. Then I had done stories on trade, had done stories on UN stories on Somalia. We still worry about Somalia. I had done stories on arms control. But this kind of a thing about bribes and all, it was new to me. And remember, every time that you do an investigative story, it will be new. Don't become cynical and say, oh, ye kar liya, wo kar liya. Don't. That is the worst thing. Because, nothing is worse than cynicism for a journalist. If you're not interested, give it to somebody else in the newsroom. Share the information. Don't ever take any fact for granted, no more than you should take yourself for granted, because you're only as good as the last story you've done. So when Kumi called, then I just did some stories on the banking, called some bankers. What are the Swiss banks? They have this famous history of banking secrets. This had started with the World War II. So they were, a lot of Jews had fled, and they had, in Germany, they had just put their money into bank accounts, which didn't have real names, because they wanted to protect their money from the Nazis. But that was the basic history. So it was very difficult to break into a Swiss bank account. So I did a story on secret Swiss bank accounts and what it means. But at that point, I didn't realize how big this was going to be. But the biggest giveaway after that story was that the Prime Minister himself, he started saying, I didn't take the money, nobody in my family took the money. So it became bigger than reality, because the Swedish radio had never said that the money had been given to the Prime Minister. The Swedish radio only said that Indians and others had been bribed. So why do you feel implicated? So that's a giveaway, no? Like, let me give a modern day example. Like, you have all these politicians who will say, oh, I'm not involved, I will continue, I will do an inquiry. Who has accused you? Right. So from the very response, you will know that who is involved. For what does a liar do? A liar? What does a liar do? This is the question for all of you. What is the first thing a liar does? I see somebody. Pardon?
He comes up the track. Denies.
Huh?
Denies.
A liar? Huh? No. Hey, what did you say? Blame somebody else first. I mean, deny, okay. But he'll say, no, man, somebody else, I didn't do it, somebody else did it. But you were not blamed, right? So that's what liars do. They blame everybody else. But even when they are not accused, then they say, a smart liar will say, let's have a committee. That's what Mrs. Indira Gandhi would have done. You know? Yeah, Mrs. Gandhi had all her other issues to deal with. Had Mrs. Indira Gandhi been involved, she would have said, committee laga lo, dekhte hain kya hota hai. You know, and then if there had been some truth in it, they would have distributed it to everybody and everybody would have kept quiet. That's how a smart politician would have worked. So what am I saying? Was Rajiv Gandhi not a smart politician? I don't believe he was a politician to start with. I think he was a very kind human being. And he was trapped eventually. I felt he had been trapped. This is my view on it. Where did the money go? I think the money went to Mr. Ottavio Quattrocchi, who is a friend of Sonia Gandhi. So this was the story, how it broke. And then it took me some time. And I think there is, I can now say this because I have worked in tobacco control, I've worked in other stories. I think there is something about me that people trust. I don't know what it is. And I hope I'm able to retain this quality. I think it came to a point, dear friends, where I ended up being in the middle of all this information, not quite knowing where to put what. Because remember, it's like a law, like you're studying a law case. You have to build up your own, it's like a case, legal story. So many things are coming. You have to say, this goes with this goes with that. At the same time, the story was breaking in India. It wasn't as if the story was still in India, because all the politicians that came to see me in Switzerland, they said, Rajiv Gandhi is involved, Rajiv Gandhi is involved, Rajiv Gandhi is involved. Are bhai, if Rajiv Gandhi is involved, then you figure it out. No. Why are you expecting me to prove it? So I had pressure from Indian politicians. I had my own pressure because I wanted to prove to myself that I was doing the right thing. And I had family pressure. There was a baby on the way. So, it's not easy. And at this point, I had no whistleblower, the whistleblower was not in sight. I mean, remember this was in maybe August. I was talking to people in Sweden, including someone who's now, is Sten Lindström. But I didn't realize that person had also started looking upon me as a source of journalism. And I want to read something to you. That he wrote for my book, and it's important. So am I making sense to you till now? Yes. So please ask me questions, because if I'm talking too fast or too slow, please put up your hands, because I do have a tendency to speak very fast. So I will tell you what he wrote for my book. And if you have some time, please buy my book. So there's always telling people to buy my book. So what does he write in the book? He says, you're not happy. I can see you. What is your ism? Huh?
Just checking if you use something.
No. Thank you. You're so sweet. Thank you. So this is from Sten Lindström, who went on to become, now, of course, he is known as Sten Lindström. But this was I used to call him Sting. He said, he said to call him Sting because he'll look around for documents and then I will sting. Sounded very important. Whistleblowing or anonymous reporting has developed as an approved way of exercising control over powerful entities. Please listen to this very carefully. One can look at the phenomenon as a legitimate part of democracy and a weapon against misused power. But there must be certain rules to whistleblowing. The motive must be to look for justice and to reveal wrongdoing without any element of revenge or vengeance. This has to be done after other ways to reach the goals are exhausted and an effective channel for information is inaccessible. Which means what? Which means, as a police officer, he's done everything that is legitimate. He's gone to all the departments. Can we do this? No. Can we do that? No. So once you have exhausted all that is legitimately given to you, then you look at whistleblowing, which is also legitimate in a democracy. My motive for feeding information and documents about the Bofors India investigation to you was disappointment over the outcome of the criminal investigation in Sweden that ended in January 1998. I had an early feeling that the investigation was opposed by important people in high places. That was followed by the impossible task of getting information about the money stream through accounts in Switzerland. This led to the prosecutor ending the investigation. The only possible way to put pressure on the Indian government and authorities via the press was via the press, meaning you, Chitra. I knew what I was doing when I gave you the documents. The effect during the following years after 1998 was brilliant. I think that all of the shady people involved in making money from a shady business felt the heat. Now, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when I read this? What is the first thing that comes to your mind?
Get
Correct.
the things right and not to take revenge from anybody.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
No revenge, trust. Yeah. Anything else?
How did you reach that point where someone is trusting, and what all do you need to do in order to reach a point where people trust you like this and then share?
I'll come to
something?
that.
Yes.
The person's intention also came from the fact that he was very unhappy with the system and the way that the system, he was very dissatisfied with how the system had sort of handled the investigation and the days leading up to the investigation. And that was why he thought that if he could talk about this to somebody that he really trusts, it would bring a successful...
Very important point. I'll come to this. It's very important what you're saying, because he needed to talk about it to somebody. Sir, a gentleman in the front, sir, when you said, how do you build trust? He needed to talk about this. The lady at the back is saying, people who have a lot of information need to talk about this. So good and bad people, yeah. There's a gentleman at the back, so you have a connected question here.
Yeah, just that a lot of this, but you talked about, are subjective assessments. What is the motivation? What is the driver? Is vengeance part of it? Not part of it? Is it in the public good? Have you exhausted other alternatives? Is it in society and politics? Is it also in business? Or does that, or do those events flow across business and society? But then there is probably also regulation and law on this. And that is the bit that I'd like to know more. That is the crucial bit that I'd like to know more.
Correct.
So that we're not just going with assessments, right? But that we actually understand the boundaries.
Correct.
So whether there's malicious intent, non-malicious intent.
Correct.
There is law and legal aspects here. Over the years, perhaps the times that you worked on the Bofors situation, the boundaries and the legal and the regulatory frameworks were diffused. Times have changed. How would it be today?
Okay, I got
that's
that.
That's something that I'm grappling with right now in a
I
context.
got that question.
So how do you, as a journalist, figure out the intent behind the whistleblowers, like whatever they're saying, and how do you figure out if it's actually true and if it's, like how do you fact check whatever is said by the whistleblower? Because we always are taught in journalism to take everything with a pinch of salt. So how do you actually realize what this person is saying is 100% true, or what is the intent behind saying it?
So I'll take that question, then I'll go to the gentleman, then I'll do a chakkar of the room, because I think all the questions are very valid and I'm very touched. So how do you know that the person is lying? Don't write the story. Yeah, you're smiling. When the person gives you information, just don't write it. Let it cool. No, it's calling a cooling period. Because if it is important, the story, if the story is important and the person is feeding you information, then nobody will get it right. But if he's giving it to you with an intention of doing bad or malpractice, then he will say, why didn't you? And also, when you get one fact, you need to double check, get another source. Because the moment you write the story, whenever you want to write it, the person will deny it. I didn't say it, And then you need another source completely unconnected to this person to stand you. So when this person gives you information, but before that, I'm going to get to this story about how do you get to this person, is to not write the story. Take your time. What's the rush? Which is not saying don't write it at all. Write it at the time that you feel you've done all the fact checks, whatever is available, and then you write the story. But have I answered your question? Yeah. Don't put additional pressure on yourself. You're already dealing with a sensitive story. So let it cool. Look at everything. Look at it. Go on, read around it. See, read. What is this person saying? What is this person not saying? What is it? Is your story complete? Read other things. Suppose this person is saying something about X. Then read everything that's connected to X. How much ever you can. Then if you have a friend or an editor, talk. Also, there is a situation here as how much do you tell your editor? Can you trust your editor? Because I also face that situation. So I'll come back to that. So to come back to your question, there is nothing like time has elapsed because the regulatory framework remains the same. Where the point you're making is how far does a journalist go? A journalist can't be a judge. A journalist can only go this much. Like my job ended by the time the government fell, right, in 1991. I could have said, okay, mera job ho gaya. No, I stayed till 1997 when all the documents were sent to India. Once they were sent to India, there was a mess. They were leaked and this, that. But then, why did I write my book 30 years later? Because I had to tell my story. Nobody knew. So to answer your question, I hope I'm able to answer it, is that you have to know what your limits are as a journalist. You're not a lawyer, but you train like a lawyer. You train your mind like a lawyer. You have to. But you don't become a judge. That's when, in my view, you overstep your limits. Am I answering your question?
Yeah. I just want to say that I'm not a.
Thank you.
I'm not a journalist, just so that to be clear. And I was coming from because I'm actually grappling with a situation.
I see.
Okay, so I can't reveal more. But the point is, that's the key thing. Laws have changed. I mean, this situation spreads across borders, and laws have changed across borders over time. Obviously, this will get into a different detail. But you're absolutely right. As a journalist, you have to think like a lawyer, but you can't be a lawyer.
No.
But then you're right. I mean, end of the day, you can only make the best judgments that you can, and then go on from there.
I just wish you all the best with your situation.
Right.
I hope it gets resolved.
Right.
But was I disappointed? Like hell, I was disappointed because, I told people to read about Watergate. They didn't have any information. I had over 300 documents. All we needed was to put everybody in prison. I was naive because they had all were conniving with each other.
Right.
But then was I disappointed as a journalist? Yes. Did I feel bad? Yes. Was I upset that somebody else got a national award? Yes. But then I'm human, right? I mean, I'm not an inhuman person. So I feel now is the time for good journalists to come back. In fact, I think what's happening here with the media rumble is a tribute to a lot of good work that's going on in India. I feel the time is now to come back. And I think more and more people are going to do good work. So, but then sorry, did you have a question? But then to come back to your question as how do you cultivate a source or how do you know a person is a source? You don't. You see, which is why the importance of sharing. And but I wanted to come back to what Sten said. It's very tempered, no? I mean, what he's saying, that he didn't say that he said that I think that all the people, shady people, felt the heat. Or he didn't say, I have to take revenge. Or, whistleblowing is not about revenge. Anybody who says, I feel that I have a personal guilt, or I feel I owe something to the society, you must never trust. Because if you're doing it for a personal reason, however lofty it might sound, it is wrong. You want to put something in the personal hand. You want to put something out in the public domain. You're doing it as a public good. It belongs to everybody. And nobody can say, because I put it out, I am the better person. No. Anybody can take good from it. And then you move on. You're not Red Cross. If it is public domain, it's public domain. So let me just come back to telling you how. So I landed on the phone with Sten Lindström, quite by accident. I knew people in Sweden, and I think I'm a curious person. So I started working on it a lot because the reaction in India was absolutely apoplectic. I mean, everybody was writing about it. And the good part was I didn't know a lot, because at that point, the only information I had was a phone. The bad part was I didn't know what the reactions were. Everybody was saying, and they were going to Sweden, they were going to Switzerland. I didn't know what on earth was going on. Anyway, so I fell on this gentleman quite by accident, Sten Lindström. So as others, as Mr. Lars Ringberg, as the other politicians and all. And I found him a man of few words. Even now he speaks very, very, it's very circumspect. And so I thought in the beginning that he was a diplomat, or he may have been something to do with a lawyer. I had no idea that he was a police officer. Can you imagine? If I had known he was a police officer, I would be scared. Not because I had never met a police officer in India. When you meet police officers, you're sort of afraid they'll beat you up. No. So, and then he was very circumspect. And then when I went to, I cultivated him. How do you cultivate him? I think it's important to be respectful. And I learned that in Europe, the Europeans have a way of speaking that is very reflective. Unlike the Americans who put a mic in front of you and say, after a tragedy has happened, they'll ask you, how do you feel your daughter is dead? That kind of rubbish. Europeans are very reflective. When you ask a question, they don't offer too much information, not because they don't want to, but they are respectful of the questions you're asking. They are reflective of, there's a lot of respect, space. Please come in the front. Is it better for you? Do you want to come up? Please feel. They're very respectful of your space, very respectful of the questions you're asking. And if they don't know, they'll tell you they don't know. So he was also cultivating me. Because don't forget that by this time he was seeing that there was not much happening in India. What was going on? The Swedish government didn't cooperate. The Indian government said, stop it. He was getting no cooperation. Imagine, even till this day, today, no Indian has met him. Can you imagine how bad it is? So he was getting zero cooperation. A lot of stuff in the media. His country was saying, we don't know, there's no corruption. Rajiv Gandhi was going to Sweden. Nobody was corrupt. Nothing was corrupt. So then where did the money go? He couldn't talk to the Swiss, because in terms of relationships, it has to go officially. His government was not going to ask. Indian government was not going to ask. Nobody was going to ask. There was his pot of money in Switzerland. So he needed someone he could trust. So how do you trust somebody on the phone? So, answer your question, it brings in another question. At that point, I had to travel. So at that point, I was working for the Hindu. So I had to tell my boss that this is happening. And then that brings up a question of how much do you tell your boss? There's no rule in India there's no rule anywhere in the world, or unless it's negotiated already in the newsroom that you must tell your boss everything. And this is, I urge you, if you're going to be investigative journalists, be very, 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 very clear with your boss. What must be told and what must not be told. Because it also leads to issues of what else you find out. Because there are bosses who can be terrible and who can be vindictive, which probably happened to me. I had a very vindictive gentleman called Mr. N. Ram. He mixed it up with his own career as a journalist, and he mixed it up with his own career in the Hindu, and wanted to know what my sources were, and never got the story published. So you have to be very clear as to what is the newsroom relationship. Who knows? Who needs to know? So be very clear as an investigative journalist as to who handles the information that you get. Because the more you go into journalism, the more trust you have. Your editor must trust you, and you must trust your editor. This is very critical. And I cannot stress more about this. Because this could be life and death. It can be life and death. So when you are cultivating a source, how much must you tell your boss? If you're not sure that you must tell your boss, tell somebody. I was telling Kumi, my friend, and I was telling not so much my husband, because I didn't want to bother him. Definitely Kumi knew everything. Someone should know everything. Phone numbers, note down every phone number, every phone conversation. How much have you spent? What? I take a lot of notes. It's important, not because I take the notes now also, because I need, and I also discovered that I was not ocular. When I listen to something, I have a listening memory. So the more I listen, the more I remember. If you tell me, if I read something, I can't tell. So figure out how you process information. What is it how does information work for you? Because, I want to give you an example. In the Bhagavad Gita, which I'm reading now for different reasons, Krishna speaks to Dhritarashtra, talks to him about power. And he speaks to Arjuna. He gives them the same advice about power, about relationships, about knowledge, about being the king. So Dhritarashtra interprets it in one way and Arjuna in another way, opposite. So why am I saying this? I'm saying this because two people can read the same thing and unload it differently. So be very careful who is leading the investigation. You are leading. If you're leading, it's not your editor. Be very careful. Okay, for example, my source did not want to meet Mr. N. Ram. He did not want to meet anyone. But pressure was put on me to say that since I am the boss, I have to meet. Now you have to figure out, is your editor the boss, or are you the boss? See, your editor is the boss in terms of the organization, but is your editor the boss in terms of the information? Suppose you are doing a story and you meet a source, and that source doesn't want to, also sources don't want to meet too many people, because there is an issue of privacy. So you have to protect your source, protect yourself, protect the news organization. So it's not that simple. Investigative journalism is not that simple. So while I said in the beginning it was boring, when you get into the big stuff, it's not simple. So this cultivating your thing, this went on for about 6 months. And then it came to January 87. No, what am I saying? 86. Nikhil was born in 87. No, August 87, after which I said I had a baby. And of course, there's this conversation where he says, are you going to call him Rajiv Gandhi? I said, no, Bjorn Bjorg and all that. It's in my book. So he said, can you come to Sweden now? I said, no, I want to feed my child for at least 6 months. So, there's all this going on. So then when I went to Sweden, in the meantime, we'd been talking, and I still didn't know what he did. So it's difficult, no, to imagine you're talking to somebody who's giving you good information, very good information. You're writing about it, very precise information. I'm writing about it. It's causing a lot of stuff, and I don't know what he does. How is he getting all his information? I got no story wrong. I got one story wrong in my life, which is not at all Bofors. But then I didn't know what he was doing. And this is sort of a semi-dangerous situation to be, because I had no way of finding out what he was giving me. But when I asked the prosecutor was saying that the information you're getting is correct. So then what was this person's link to the prosecutor? Was he in the legal department? It never occurred to me that he was a police officer. It occurred to me diplomat, it occurred to me lawyer, it occurred to me all kinds of things, but didn't occur to me as a police officer. So then this has been going on for the last 4, 5, 6 months. I go to Stockholm, and he says, this meeting, I was going to meet a lot of people, the prosecutor, the journalists, a few other diplomats who were working on Bofors. And remember, this was in 1987, 88. Anyway, I have something. So I stay with a friend. She's moved out with her boyfriend. And she leaves me her flat. The only light that there is in the flat is in the kitchen and the bathroom. Everything else is dark. So I've decided I'm going to get killed. It's very scary. And then I land in the plane. At that time, there were not many women in the plane. There was one woman, and there was me, the only woman of color. And it's raining in Sweden. I feel so sad. I'm thinking of, what is kind of music? I'm thinking of Agatha Christie and all this. So, I'm quite a fertile imagination. So go there, and when I walk around. Then he doesn't call me. He says, you're not going to call me, I will call you. So he doesn't call me. I have one more day to go. And then I have decided I have been set up. Complete decision, I've been set up. I'm not going anywhere. How much time do I have left? 25? Okay, I'm going to shut up. So, because I'm a storyteller, I can go on. So I feel that I have been set up, he's not going to show up. And even though all the information has given me is correct, I'm not going to get anything. And then he shows up, where he calls me, and I jump out of my skin. And then he says, I will meet you in half an hour. I'll meet you this place. So I go to that place. And then I ask him, he's rather good looking, and I say, what do you do? Then he tells me, this is what I do. And then my jaw drops. And then I say, why are you helping the good people? If by not helping me, you are helping the bad people. And he said, I have to test you, I had to test you out. Relationships. He's also making sure that I'm not trustworthy. He's given me a lot of information. How do you build trust? He also has to build trust. The source also has to build trust. This is where the role of the editor comes in. Because I am different from I'm not saying I'm Arjuna and the editor is Dhritarashtra, even though I think it is true. But how much do you tell what, whom, and for what effect is very important in investigative journalism. Don't just share for sharing's sake. And a lot of information I have never shared because there's been no point, So then, of course, I go to his office in another wing. He opens the drawers, and my God, I have difficulty in reading. I'm just looking at all these documents, and then I get 350. I could have got 750. So that's how the whole story came about. And then my friend, I start writing reams and reams of stuff. My editor has his own agenda, and then the government falls, and my friend Kumi says, Chitra, the government has fallen. What? I'm going out shopping, and then I said, what did you say? The government has fallen. So, what do you do as an investigative journalist? Remain modest. You're not the damn story. The story is the story. And I would tell you that, however big you are, however great your story is, you're not the story. You must remain the teller of a story, the storyteller. So, and then of course the new government comes. They have their own agenda. By the way, when I tell Stan Lindstrom, oh, I'm so happy VP Singh has come, he says, well, he tells me there are wheels within wheels, and he's most unenthusiastic about a new government and new rules. So he says, he says to me that there are wheels within wheels, and that's what happened. Because they planted a whole story on Mr. Amitabh Bachchan, who had nothing to do with the case. So, everybody has their own interest, which is why if as a journalist you're honest, and your only honesty is to facts, you know that your conscience is clear, and you're not playing anyone's game, neither the editor, not the government, not anybody else's. You have to be very clear-minded why you are in investigative journalism. Be very temperate. I mean, which is not to say I was temperate. I had temper tantrums and all that. But remember that if you're honest with the facts will remain honest with you. So that's the end of my talking to you. Please feel free to speak. Yeah, sorry, yeah.
So you told that the intent of whistleblower should be very important. If they are malicious, you should check that. But sometimes they may be malicious, but the information which they are sharing is very important. So what to do?
The intent of the whistleblower could be malicious, but the information that he or she has is good. How do you figure out that? How do you figure malice? That, I would say, is the quality of you as a journalist. If you're not able to figure out the malicious intent of somebody, then maybe you should not be in journalism. For the simple reason, then you will get used by a lot of people. And you'll end up doing stories that are vicious and malicious, and you will be carrying the can. So journalism is not for people who can't tell malice. I'm sorry if I'm sounding a bit abrupt, but the world is full of honest people. Contrary to what people say, the world is full of very good people. There are malicious people also. But one part of being a good journalist is that you have to be able to sift that out already.
Hello, madam. I have some information about a specific private limited company in India, which is having branches all over India, and they are carrying out some major scam. And from past many years, I have tried contacting many different news organizations, and I am not able to, even the very honest news organizations, they are focused on politicians, and they're not focused on scams by private limited companies. And I don't know how to get the story out, how to find a journalist or a news organization who will get the story out.
You have that story that journalists don't want to do stories on scams?
Today, the political, generally, there is one mass distraction with social media itself, and the fact that the priority of consumer or public interests, like I have consumer interest issues which are right there in the open for everybody to see. And as a society, we ignore them on a daily basis, ignoring the long-term impacts of it. But on top of that, it is that the discourse, even in the digital space, is mostly around politics, even if it is around honest long-term issues. But there are other issues that are fixable rather than having politics solve political issues solved.
I got that. So the question that two gentlemen are asking, sorry, you have something similar? Next, yeah. So the question is that you all got the question right. I mean, even if you have a good information, you're not able to get mass media attention. If you think your information is good and verifiable in a court of law, because it should be verifiable in a court of law, why don't you start writing about it? Social media, you don't think it's going to help you?
I've tried that.
What did you? Okay, don't tell me. I don't want to know. But what is the effect you want? Do you want that person? Since you say it's verifiable and you also said it can be repaired. Yes. It's repairable. And you're saying you're not getting any effect.
Yes. Because the public is blind towards complexity at times and towards reading and like maybe I'm writing it in a like I'm trying to solve that. I have to present it in a better way. But I don't know how the gentleman here has reached out, if it is like public interest and what. But it is very difficult with the reading attention span. I've tried LinkedIn, I've tried Twitter, anonymous Twitter. I've tried things. I talk to people on the street and in malls when I'm around. They understand the issue, but they get over it. They're like, yeah, what can I do?
And can we come in there if you'll allow us? I mean, it can't become a one-on-one. It should be.
Yeah.
I mean, journalism at its best is a conversation among ourselves and all of that, but we can't have just a one-way conversation. But are there questions that we can take further? Wow, lots of questions. Yes, please.
Chitra, you did mention that you got one story wrong.
Yes.
Can you share with us why you got that story wrong and what lessons from that episode can you share with us?
And how did it go wrong? What was wrong about it?
That story has to do with, in fact, it had to do with the story I was writing on disarmament in Geneva. And I cannot give you much because it's part of a new book I'm writing, my other stuff. And that story was that this was during the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. It was very big for India, and India walked out of the negotiations because we didn't want to become part of this unfair treaty. And the Chinese planted a story on me. Planted. Can you imagine? I wrote that story without any verification. Single source. I ran with a single source. While I could check with everybody, the Indian ambassador, Indian diplomats, I ran with a single source. Can you imagine how ashamed I was? And this was not any country, this was China. So I write more about it, but that was like, this is after everything I had done. How could you do this? And I remember the person who I had most hurt had yelled at me across the corridor. And then I locked myself up in a phone booth and I wept and I wept and I wept because it was so blatantly planted. So, no one is above. I mean, only fools make no mistakes. Only fools make no mistakes. Yeah, there are questions there.
My question was, when you do find a whistleblower as a source and you write the story and maybe it catches attention to the point that the whistleblower's life can come into danger, do you feel any sort of responsibility as a journalist to protect the source at that time, or how do you go about it?
So the whistleblower, if it is a responsible whistleblower, he or she will know the risks. That's not for you to assess. In the beginning, you don't know the validity of, like when my life was threatened, and it was, I needed independent assessment and then I had when I had two sources, like I had one in Switzerland, and they said that this threat is live, this threat is not live. So, you need someone to assess those threats. So if the whistleblower's life is under threat, it's for the whistleblower to figure it out and not put pressure on you because you are doing your work. The whistleblower is doing his or her work. So don't go there. And if you need to walk that path together, be very clear what everyone's rights and responsibilities are. Did I answer your question? Okay, there are some.
I have a question. I have, like you said, to assess the source. What a lady asked to assess the source. There's a cooling period, you said. What if the same source goes to a different journalist, says the same thing? The journalist takes a hunch, a gut feeling, he publishes it, and the story blasts. It's a true story. So does hunch, the gut feeling thing plays a role in investigative journalism?
The gut feeling plays a big role because if you get to a point where your gut feeling is right, then you can get one story wrong, maybe that person, and you can go back and tell the source. But there's bad luck also, no? So what is the amount of risk you're willing to take? I believe that if it's a story like Bofors, it came very quickly to a point where my friend Kumi, who is coming, she said, listen, you have left everybody behind. But that put pressure on me as well, no, because I didn't have cooling period. And I wasn't going to be pushed around. So, yes, gut feeling, yes, cooling period. And you'll see at one point, they'll come together. They will collapse. But the point I'm trying to make is that don't put, I have 10 minutes remaining. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Yeah, I have 10 minutes remaining, people. So, another question here?
I want to talk about the intent part that you just spoke. Why does it matter what the intent of the whistleblower is? If you know the information is right, you're going to correct, you're going to verify with another source as well. Why does that intent matter?
Because if the whistleblower is settling scores, or if the whistleblower feels that he or she is in some way indebted to somebody in the story, or if the intent is to pay back or something, you have to be very clear why someone is giving you information. Yes and no. Yes and no. Because you see, if it's going to be a relationship as to going back and forth, like it was in Bofors, I will always be dependent on this person. No. At one point will come that I have to break the dependency and we become equal. Till such time that you become equal, there is an inequality here. So when the inequality is properly assessed, then you can say, okay, we are friends. But even then, you have to be sure the editor, there are so many factors, no? So be very careful. Don't say, I don't trust your intent. That's a stupid thing to say. So, you go slowly, be slow. Yeah? Like when someone says, I want to save my country and all that, that's all bull. Okay. Huh? No, cynicism, you have to be naive. But if someone says, oh, I want to do this and I want to do good to the world and all that, please. I mean, I'm telling you people that there were no, yeah, sorry.
Hi, ma'am. I'm not a journalist.
They're all non-journalists here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to touch upon his question when you said that you had one story wrong, which was planted on you. So I wanted to understand: did you lose credibility post that? And if yes, how did you win it back?
I lost credibility in my own eyes, which is why it is very important that you are your first. How to say, I was so ashamed of myself. Why did I work on Bofors? Because I wanted to be a good journalist in my own eyes. But fortunately for me, I had done enough of work that I was able to write that I was able to say sorry publicly, because you have to be able to say sorry publicly. That is the trust. That is also the job of a good journalist, because, only fools make no mistakes. Tell yourself this, only fools make no mistakes. Anybody can make a mistake. And doesn't mean because you're big and all that you can't. Anybody can make a mistake. Yeah.
We'll take 3 more questions.
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, ma'am. I'm a journalism student. So my question is, with recently Boeing, many of the whistleblowers from Boeing have gone on to do press conferences talking about the issues in the company, so to speak. So what's your take on that? Because whistleblowing is in my opinion, whistleblowing is a very private matter that we have seen from Watergate itself. The source Deep Throat only talking to one of the journalists privately, that too. And so why such big press conferences, and how do they impact whistleblowing and its rules and regulations? That's all.
So my time is up. No? Time? Oh, 5 minutes, sorry. So the big press conference makes sure, my view is that your safety. The more people know, the more safe you are. See, once you're out in the open, then nobody can kill you. We've seen people being killed also. Boeing also, no? They killed. So in the case of Boeing, it's just money. And it's shocking. I continue to be shocked. Well, it's good for Airbus, because more and more people are buying Airbuses. I mean, Airbus must be laughing. But I cannot imagine, I suppose, pressure, money, how many people you can buy. And how many people you can fix? I mean, we live in a world where all this goes on. I'm not innocent. Look at what's going on in Ukraine and it's a happy time for arms dealers. An arms dealer told me then, 45 years ago, that politicians are arms dealers in three-piece suits. I'll never forget this. Look at them. Look at what's going on. Ukraine, Gaza, who's buying? Germany is rearming. Japan. Everyone is rearming. So, am I going to become cynic? Absolutely not. And we have to fight back, which is what the News Minute and the News Laundry are doing. We're fighting back. Because otherwise, we can't. Yeah.
Hi, ma'am.
Yes.
This is Firoz Meman from Thane, Maharashtra. I just one question that you have got a story from your sources and it got to print. When it is published, you see that story is modified by your editor. So at that time, your source or you lose your trust on your source के क्या होता है कि मतलब लगता है कि अब क्या होगा मतलब उसको ये लगता है कि आपने modify किया but it is your editor who modified this story for his own purpose for his own interest. At what time at that time what you'll do?
So my editor did not even publish the story. Can you imagine? I had to deal with. How is it okay? Because my source's life was threatened. Then if it happens more than one, you have to call out the editor. There is no two rules about this. First time, you can say, was it badly modified? Who has the right? पहले मैंने कहा था ना story में. Who has the right to do this? Be very clear with your editor. Does your editor, what are the rights your editor has? Who gets to do the final, what happens? Be very clear about this. Because in the end, it's your reputation. अगर एक line भी चूक हो गई ना, तो you have to be careful. There is no negotiation here, my friend. There is no negotiation here.
We have one last question.
Yeah.
Hello, ma'am. I'm a journalism student as well. So my question was, if the whistleblower is, say, somebody, a civic rights activist, or like somebody who has been facing an issue, let's say people who have been living around a landfill facing issues, something like that, does the story then should be about their issues or like what they are facing, or about the greater issue in general? Like how much agency do we give?
It's about the context, right? You're talking about context. How much is it? What is your immediate issue? Who has agency? And it's important. She mentioned agency. We have to get this agency issue sorted out. Sometimes it's the mayor, sometimes it's so you have to figure out who can fix it. And often journalists don't get this. They say minister. It's not always the minister. You've got to get to the agency. So the civil rights person or whoever will give you the facts. Then it's how do you frame it? Why do framing is very important. Frames decide three things. What is at stake? Who is responsible? And where the solutions can come from. So how you write the story, get the framing right. If the framing is wrong, you're up for trouble. Did I answer that story? Frame it correctly. Isme ye hai. This person, this is the framing, this is what's going on, this person is responsible, and this is where the solutions can come. Get it right immediately. That way nobody can attack you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Chitra.